and welcome back to the Spicy Sports Show with Sam Storm, coming to you live from Indianapolis, Indiana, 9:36 on the clock, East Coast time anyway, 6:36 at back west. A lot to talk about in the world of sports, but of course, it is Jon Stewart's last night on the air on The Daily Show. Check it out, 11 o'clock Eastern on Comedy Central. I'm excited to see that last show. For me, that'll be one of my final topics, of course. So what we have on the plate today, we have Brandon Boykin being traded to the Steelers, and another accusation of racism now with him and Chip Kelly. So we're going to talk about that. Arian Foster also admitted something as well. A little more or less controversial depending on your opinion. So we're going to talk about that as well. Kobe Bryant saying, going to NBA and talk anyway. Kobe Bryant says the Lakers can make the playoffs. We'll see about that. And my final topics of the show, we'll talk about two things. One's going to be Jon Stewart, because that's going to be a fun topic. Number one. And number two, Justin Blackmon. News came out earlier this week that he's probably not going to play in the NFL ever again. And I'm going to talk about how it's a cautionary tale for future athletes coming up that sometimes talent, no matter how great, may not be enough to save your job, really. So thank you so much for listening. It's been about 2 weeks since I produced the last podcast. Last one was in Phoenix, was in Portland, so I didn't do any while in Portland. But now I'm back out here in Indianapolis doing another show, and then I'm off for the rest of the month. I'm actually at home the rest of the month, which is actually, it's weird because I've been traveling on really hard the last couple of weeks. I think the longest I've stayed in Portland would be 10 days. So the fact that I get 3 weeks in Portland at least, for right now, of course, everything's subject to change. It's pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie, though. Although I'm gonna burn through a lot of gas money with the car that I drive, so that should be pretty interesting. But anyway, let's get right to it. Philadelphia. There's a lot of questions with the Eagles. There's a lot. I mean, what Chip Kelly did this offseason has been pretty insane by most people's standards. A lot of questions as to whether or not the Eagles are even going to be competitive this season. A lot of people say yes, others say no way. When you trade players like Nick Foles away, who was pretty good a couple years ago, still not bad last year, and then you trade away LaShawn McCoy, who is Mr. Pennsylvania, really, going to Bishop McDevitt High School out in Harrisburg, then going to Pitt, and then playing in Philadelphia, and then he gets traded. And now Brandon Boykin, another important player, I believe, on that Philadelphia defense, which, again, has a lot of questions to be asked, really, gets traded to Pittsburgh. And, of course, Brandon Boykin, as if you've heard the last couple of days anyway, cried out racism, that Chip Kelly does not relate to black players. It's interesting now because I feel like Chip Kelly is going to be in the hot seat at the beginning of the season. Anyway, I feel like he does have to produce in order for him to keep his job. Because when you develop a reputation like this, there are fewer things in this world that really stand out. And to be called a racist, there are fewer things in this world that are really worse than that to be called a racist. And it's not just one player, it's like a couple. And high profile players, LaShawn McCoy and Brandon Boykin. These aren't just scrub players. LaShawn McCoy was the franchise player in Philadelphia. Again, the running back position has been on the downgrade the last couple of years, but still, LaShawn McCoy still produces at a top 5 running back in the league level. Now, Brandon Boykin, again, not as big on the chart in terms of a franchise player, but he's still a pretty well-known player. So the fact that, not just on one occasion, on 2 occasions at least, Chip Kelly's called a racist, and it doesn't matter at this point if Brandon Boykin takes back his comments or not. What's done is done, and Chip Kelly has a label already. So for me, that in itself puts them on the hot seat, no question. At least that puts his job on the hot seat, because now he has to produce. Because it's one thing to get rid of all your key players, whatever, and try to make something out of your own system, that the system that has gotten you from one level to the next level, and then going up through the NCAA division ranks, and then to Oregon, and then now to Philadelphia. But then for professional players to question your methods now, it's a different story, because in college, the head coach is the face of the program. You think of Nick Saban, you think of Alabama. You think of Les Miles, you think LSU. You thought Pete Carroll, when he was at USC, you thought USC. Again, Chip Kelly at Oregon. Gus Malzahn, Auburn. So far and so forth. Again, whenever you thought of a program, the face of the program in college is the head coach. In the NFL, it's different. It's the players that are the main pieces. When you think of New England, you think of Tom Brady. When you think of Denver, you think Peyton Manning. Indianapolis, Andrew Luck. You think of the quarterback. You think of high-profile players. Now, Chip Kelly may think this is college, and getting rid of, again, very important pieces, and gambling on players that it's gonna be interesting, because again, DeMarco Murray had a great season last year, led the league in rushing. We'll see how he does now going from Dallas to Philadelphia in this system as well. And Sam Bradford, who has made so much money. I think he's made over $50 million over the course of his career, but is sub 500. And a lot of it does have to do with injury, yes, of course. But this is the season where if Sam Bradford wants to stay relevant in this league, this is his last opportunity. He needs to produce well this season. He needs to play a full 16-game set. And he needs to be productive. So Chip Kelly's gambling a lot on the course of Sam Bradford, or maybe Mark Sanchez, I don't know. And again, he signed Tim Tebow. He made Tim Tebow relevant again after a couple of years of Tebow just working out on ESPN, going to the SEC network. For Philadelphia, there are a lot of questions. And does Chip Kelly have the answer? We're going to find out. I think for Philadelphia, they have to make the playoffs. They have to make a deep run. You look at the course of their schedule. Early on, it's somewhat favorable. I mean, they play at Atlanta. They play at home against Dallas, at the Jets, at the Redskins, and then they play at home against New Orleans, home against the Giants, and then a couple of games that maybe are a little questionable. They play at Dallas, at home against Miami. Against Tampa Bay now, who has Jameis Winston. Honestly, I could see maybe 8-9 wins, but for Chip Kelly to make the playoffs, they're probably going to need 10. So it does remain to be seen what's going to happen in Philadelphia, but again, a lot of accusations coming out of there. And it's interesting because Chip Kelly's mentors were Bill Belichick and Jimmy Johnson. And they ran things their own way. Now, what do these coaches, at least these two coaches, have in common? They have rings. Throughout their entire career coaching, Bill Belichick and Jimmy Johnson, highly successful, but they did things their own way, which was, again, controversial from time to time. Now, is that a good sign for Chip Kelly having those type of mentors? Maybe. But right now, for Philadelphia and Chip Kelly, it doesn't look good when you're labeled like this. So, what is the only thing that will cure this bad PR? Winning. Always does. If the Eagles go, 6-0, 7-0 to start the season, this isn't going to be a big deal. It's not going to be a big deal in October. But if they're 3-4, 2-5, well, then there are going to be a lot of questions for Chip Kelly. So switching from Philadelphia to Houston, this news story came out about Arian Foster, and there are two stories with him. Number one is that he just was recently injured, and now that he's out for what about? I think he's going to be out about the start of the season, which is huge. Now, of course, the other topic of discussion is Arian Foster admitting that he's an atheist, that he does not believe in God. It's funny for me because these type of articles are ones where I just like to scroll through the comment section just to see. Again, I don't comment on these forums because people who comment on forums such as this, no offense, just want their 3 seconds in the limelight, get 720 likes, and that'll be that. But it's interesting the types of comments that you get. And look, Arian Foster can believe what he wants. I don't understand how people can be offended by that. In a country where we are free to speak our minds, where we are free to express our opinions, both positively and negatively. Look, he said, yes, I'm an atheist. Okay, great. I'm not mad at him. I think the fact that people are mad at him, come on. You gotta be kidding me, really? It doesn't make me dislike the guy. I think he's a great player. When he's healthy, he's a fantastic player. I have a fantasy draft coming up in 3 weeks, and it's my first one with a nice pool with a couple of old college friends. It's a big one. So, if he's available, and he's actually, and again, this is probably somewhere later in the draft. In that draft, I think it's 12 rounds usually. If I think he's going to be a solid player this season, maybe when he comes back, may draft him late round, maybe pick him off the waiver wire. I'm not going to put my opinions on what he believes in and can put that in consideration. Look, what he does on the field, that's great. But what he admits in his personal life, that's fine as well. You shouldn't take offense to what he believes in. He's lucky enough to get to this point in his career where he has a public forum to share opinions like this. And again, in a sport where, I guess in an era where religion and athletics are almost one and the same for some people. Again, a lot of NFL players have religious tattoos. Whether it be a cross or, one thing or the other. They have that. And they're free to speak their minds. And what's funny is the people that allowed Tim Tebow to speak his mind are now the same people that are shutting this guy away. Are you kidding me? You can't have both sides. You have to allow both sides to express their opinions because they are opinions. Okay? Whether you believe in God or not, that's fine. It's not a problem. I mean, I'm friends with atheists as well. It's not, and I don't care. I'm not gonna force beliefs on you if that's not what you want. If that is not your agenda, then that's fine. But what I don't understand is people actually taking it so personally. Big deal. Okay? What you do in your private life, great. But as long as Arian Foster produces on the football field, okay.